Good morning, everybody. Today I'm talking about some new opportunities and new technology in plumbing that is not run-of-the-mill stuff and is on its way into the country and certainly coming to show itself overseas. One proviso maybe we should just mention before we start everything is a lot of these technologies I'm talking about here don't have any existing South African approvals, so you should seek approval, or you should certainly discuss it with the engineer or your building inspector before you propose or take any of these products further. As I say, they don't yet have approval, but there'll be quite a lot of them that will in the next couple of years be forced to have approval, or will be forced to adopt approval on them because of the way they assist in making your plumbing better, your job better. So what this is about is, as a plumber, we need to be looking at new technology so that we can be better than the other plumbers in the market, and we can also specialize and make our businesses more valuable, and obviously at the end of the day hopefully make more money as a plumber, because at the end of the day that's what we're all in business to do, is to make money and also to offer a better product at the end of the day to your customer. So we're going to discuss a couple of new technologies. These are not the only new technologies out there, and I would really recommend, if you have some time, to certainly go onto the YouTube channels and to the Instagram and Pinterest and those sort of things, and try and follow some plumbers overseas and some plumbing technology overseas. There's a huge amount of new technology coming, and if you can discover it, or if you can be one of the first to get it, you will be a market leader instead of a market follower. So the first products, the first product sectors we're going to discuss is environmental savings and water harvesting. That's a very big and very popular topic at the moment, but there are a couple of things that maybe we haven't thought of, and that maybe with a little bit of time and effort and a bit of discovering on the internet and that sort of thing, and talking to manufacturers, you could be one of the first to install these sort of products. One of the products I'd like to discuss this morning is a product by Waven. It's called Aquacell, and there are a couple of other manufacturers that make a similar product, but this is basically like a Lego block that comes flat packed like an IKEA bed, and you clip it together, and you clip many of these modules together, and that makes a storage tank underground that is geologically stable. And that means that you could in effect put a car park or something like that on it, and you wouldn't have to take up any space. And you can use that either as a storage or as an attenuation tank. Attenuation means that we slow down the stormwater. And if you read the bylaws in this country, when you build a new building, the stormwater can only come off that area at the same speed as what it would have come off on natural ground. When you put a car park down, you prevent the soil absorbing water, and you tend to create flash floods and things like that. So a lot of the engineering that goes onto new buildings is to attenuate the water, to slow it down, to put little dams or buffers so that the water doesn't enter the streams and things at a rapid rate. And this system here is designed to be able to do that without taking up space in the development. So we can put it under a car park. You won't be having to build dams, you won't be having to build culverts. All the water will go underneath here, and then you can make the decision either to let that water infiltrate back into the rainwater system, or if you covered this in a plastic geotextile, you could use it as a storage tank, and you could then pump that water back in dry seasons to water flowers, to flush toilets, that sort of a thing. So there's a lot of possibilities, and a lot of money is spent at the moment in doing this sort of a system out of concrete or out of earthen dams, and it takes up a lot of space, whereas this method is going to enable building sites and construction sites to make better use of their space and give an environmentally sound solution. What would you do with the water once you've collected it? Obviously, you need to clean it. And there are a lot of people who make very, very high-end and good water filter systems. I know that one of the IOPSA members of the company called BWT, that make very good treatment, so that you can either treat rainwater or sewage back to eventually drinking water, or if you don't treat it quite so far, you can treat it to grey water and use it to flush toilets and wash down areas, things like that. So it's just a question of embracing these new technologies and offering them to your clients, because I can tell you that installing a water purification system gets you a very happy client, and the savings and the convenience of having grey water on hand to use to wash down flooring or to flush toilets, that sort of thing, becomes a very worthwhile cause in the plumbing industry. We also then can offer comfort offerings. Comfort offerings are things that, like heating and cooling, and making your dwelling space better. So what's becoming very popular in Europe, and to a lesser extent in South Africa, is underfloor heating, but then heating and cooling. Heating and cooling, so the traditional underfloor heating, we would put the pipes in the concrete slab underneath your bedroom, and we'd pump hot water through it, and you would heat your building like that. With radiant heating and cooling, we rely on the radiant source of heating, and by putting the pipes very close to the surface, we can cover those in plaster or ceiling boards, and we can make your ceiling board or your wall into a heating or cooling surface. This becomes a very efficient way to run water, run your heating and cooling systems. It takes up very little space. If you can see that top slide, you can see that it's only an extra couple of inches on your ceiling. You would cover that with a ceiling board, and you would have heating and cooling by pumping either warm water through for heating or cool water through for cooling. And year round, you would have a comfort level that can be achieved with heating and cooling. I know of a couple of projects in South Africa that have already been done with this, and overseas, this is certainly the new way to heat and cool a building. It's a very energy efficient way to do it, because we don't have to shift huge amounts of air or water in that, for that matter, to heat or cool the building, and it gives a very high comfort level. All of this can be coupled to your smart building management system. So once you've got your building management system working correctly, you can turn this on and off. When you're traveling, you can turn it on the day before you get there, and when you come home, you'll come home to a beautiful cool building or a beautiful warm building, and it all ties in with your smart building systems and is very, very easily to control. We then also have things like waterless traps. Waterless traps are ideal, especially in very hot areas where they have low usage, because they will never dry out. This particular picture is of a HEP VO, and these products were stuck into Soccer City, and there were 2,000 stuck into Soccer City, and they never ever get a smell, because when they don't use the building for a couple of weeks between soccer matches or between concerts, there is no water to dry out, and there is no trap to dry out and make a smell. So it eliminates the possibility of a trap drying out, and because of that, it also eliminates the possibility of smells entering the building. It also is becoming very prevalent, and if you read the news reports about plumbing, they've identified that at the moment COVID is also being dispersed or transmitted through bad venting in systems, because the traps are dried out and because products aren't being used. The pathogens have been able to creep back up the drain and be vented into buildings. And if you do read the news, there are a couple of case studies they're doing at the moment about how COVIDs and other diseases are entering dwelling spaces through the failing of traps and drying out of traps. As I said again, please guys, a lot of these products don't have approvals, so you just need to discuss it with your engineer or local authority before installing something like this. The next product that's certainly gaining some traction in South Africa is point of use filtered water. There's several varieties on the market at the moment that I've seen in South Africa, and a lot of people are going for this sort of thing in upmarket houses and semi-industrial kitchens. It's basically a tank of some sort, either installed underneath the counter or on top of the counter, that when you push normal tap water through it, it filters it. Several offer hot or cold options. Some even offer sparkling water as well as an option, and it's on demand, it's available, it's not storing the water, so there's no chance of bacteria growth in the water, and it's a very convenient way of doing it. And again, if you can get into something like this as a plumber, it's an offering that maybe quite a lot of plumbers don't have available yet, and it gives you the edge. If you're a plumber who specializes in kitchens, something like this is certainly something worth looking at as a plumber. The other thing we also can look at is a thing called a hot water circulation valve, and this valve helps to balance hot water in a building where there are multiple loops. What often happens in an apartment block or a hotel is you have a centralized boiler system, and that is then pumped to all the different areas of the hotel. And because of the nature of water, the easiest loop stays hottest, and the longest or the loop with the most bends and most friction stay coolest. This valve is installed on the return line of each leg, and when it gets to temperature, it closes, which forces the hot water to purge the next line, and when that line gets to temperature, it closes. So this valve, by opening and closing several of these valves in a system at a time, the hot water in the building will all stay at the same temperature, and the comfort of the building will be far better, and you'll have far less wastage of water because all the hot water will be available as you turn on a tap. In the olden days, we used to use a thing called a balancing valve. We used to have to try and manually balance each loop. This valve now does it all for you. And again, there are a couple of manufacturers who've launched this sort of a valve or very similar. And depending on how far you want to go, you can also link this to your building management system, so you can use it to do thermal disinfection. In a hospital, you might want to turn it on or turn the temperature up to 90 degrees every second day or something at midnight, and this valve lets you do that sort of a thing, or these valves let you do that sort of thing, and you can have thermal disinfection happening in the pipelines. The other sector that we need to look at is repairs and maintenance, and one of the big ones at the moment is pipelining and trenchless replacing of pipe or repairs. I know there are a couple of members of the Institute of Plumbing, and if you need any details, you can definitely contact me afterwards or contact our IOPSA, and they'll put you on to the guys who are already doing this. And these guys have made a very good business out of this, but it's a very nice thing to be able to offer your clients, and it's something that's really useful if you don't need to dig up paving or you don't need to chop up tiles or something in a building, if you can reline it. And if you look at the picture before and after, you will see that they take an existing pipeline, they clean the inside, and they either spray a polymer or insert a polymer into it, or they can pull a new pipe through on certain places. They can rip out the old pipe and pull a new pipe through at the same time, so you don't have to dig open a road, for instance, if there's a drain underneath it, or a foundation if the building goes underneath. Trenchless repairing is becoming a very how would you put it, almost a niche in the plumbing industry, and people who specialize in it are very busy. The other thing that is also becoming very important, and again, people who can do this can start to offer far more reports and data to their customers, is data logging. With the way the internet and cell phones and things like that are going, it's becoming easier and easier to install a smart meter, or a meter that can do more than just measure the water flow. It can log the times when the flow is greatest, when the flow is least, and from that you can also then start to charge your customers according to when they're using the water. And if you start putting it onto the hot water systems in a building, you can charge the customers for the energy they're using as well as just the water. So a lot of buildings have a central boiler, and in the olden days you used to measure hot and cold water, but now we can actually measure the temperature coming in, temperature going out, and the time they're using it, and you can allocate times so that you can try and balance when everybody's showering in a building or everybody's using hot water in an apartment block, and charge them more at peak times and less at lower times, which then creates times for people to shower and make sure they're using the hot water at a more balanced time. And ultimately, you can also then set your boilers and your heat pumps so that they are creating the hot water at times when you need it and not wasting energy by creating hot water at times when not getting used. In Europe, they measure the water going into the building and out of the building. So if you've got a circulating ring main on a hot water side, for instance, they measure the water going in, the temperature going in, the amount of water you've used, and the amount of water coming back out and the temperature coming back out. So they can accurately bill you, which goes back to the heating and cooling in the building. They can accurately bill you for the heating and the cooling that you are using in your building, and that it'll come as a part of your utility charge. They can say energy consumption, and they can charge you for it. And then all of this also then is able you to turn off meters and turn them back on when people are away. So if you're leaving home, you can turn your water off, you can turn your meter off, and that will mean that there's no chance of a leak while you're away. Or if you do have a leak, the machine will send you a message and say, massive usage of water, are you home? And you can say, no, please turn off, and it will turn off. So these things are all becoming more and more possible with the use of technology in buildings. Then all of this has to be brought together, and the way that architects and designers are bringing it together is with BIM Revit modeling. So building information modeling is the new way to design buildings, and in Europe by 2021, all public buildings will have to be BIM designed and modeled before construction commences. My brother is in the architectural industry in the UK, and every single building they have to give a full walkthrough with their clients with BIM Revit, and they can even plug in the GPS coordinates and let the client know when the sun will be shining on a certain part of the building during the day and in the afternoon and that sort of thing. But BIM also lets designers use the correct dimensions for the product. So if you're a pipe supplier, you will create BIM objects of your pipe, or if you're a toilet supplier, you'll create BIM objects of your toilets, and it'll be down to the last millimeter, and the architect can then place your toilet in the building with the tiles, with the pipes and everything, and check from a dimension point of view that everything fits perfectly. With your pipes, you'll be able to put your pipes, the air conditioning pipes, the electrical cables, everything into the duct, and they will be able to ensure that everything fits in the duct before they start working. And if not, they can redesign the duct to make sure that the duct or the wall, whatever, will fit it. And the client can do a full-on walkthrough and check that everything's right. If there's solar energy, they can put the solar collectors onto the roof, and they can model the sun so that they know when the solar energy will be at its peak, what time of the year, how much energy they will be getting out of the solar to charge batteries, maybe as an alternative energy source. And then the final thing that the BIM system can do is, once you've designed the building, it'll generate you an exact bill of quantities of what is needed in your building, down to the last meter of pipe, however many elbows you need, how many geysers you need, what pumps you need. It'll all be generated with your BIM so that you have an exact bill of quantities, and then it becomes a very easy thing to price. And also, if there are changes in the building, you can change it on the BIM Revit plan, and it'll help your plumber and everybody fit in with each other. Down the line, you will have picked up the problem before it becomes a problem. This is just a couple of pictures that I've taken off the internet, so you can see how it designs and how it will work out. And it'll even, with pipe, for instance, when you've had to use reducers, it'll even work out what reducers are available in the catalog and put the reducers in so that the reducers fit and work correctly. So that if you're doing a drainage and you need to go from 160 to 50 mil, it'll put the 3 reducers in that are available on the catalog, and it'll design it like that, so that when you come to do the BOQ takeoff, everything will be exactly right, and it won't just be one reducer. It'll be the number of reducers you need and the angle of the bends and things like that you need. BIM will also stop the designer designing products that don't exist. So when he comes to do a bend and he needs to do a funny angle, it'll only let him use the products that are available. So it'll be a 45 junction plus a 22.5 bend, whatever it is. It'll let him use the bends that are available. It won't let him design an angle that's not available. It'll break it down to the number of fittings you need. And then you get a very accurate finish up at the end, and it makes the plumber's life very easy because he can see exactly which pipes he needs to put in and where he needs to put them in and when he needs to put them in. So this is the way that the architectural plumbing construction industry is going, and it won't be long before, even down here in South Africa, we are forced to use BIM Revit on all sites. I know a lot of the big architectural firms are already using it and are already making use of BIM objects and catalogs and things like that on site. Finally, this brings us all together to have intelligent controls. It's already happening. We can turn on our houses from a telephone. We can turn on the lights. We can turn on the Wi-Fi. We can let people in. We can do all that sort of thing. I mean, a lot of you guys will know of Amazon. You'll know of Siri, that's on the phones. And they offer a thing called Alexa or Siri and voice activation. You can turn on your house. You can turn off your house. I have a cousin in America, and when he tells Alexa that he's coming home, the vacuum cleaner gets sent out and it cleans the house. It turns on his heating and cooling. It turns on the geysers. It turns on the lights, and when he comes home, it's like there's somebody's been in the house already to turn on everything and get everything working before he gets there. He travels for work, and after 2 or 3 weeks, he'll come home and the house will be warm and cozy, and all the lights will be working and that sort of thing. And it'll also troubleshoot if something's wrong while he's away. He can get the plumber, or we can get someone to go and fix the house while he's there. It can also, as I was mentioning earlier, you can turn on so it purges the hot and cold water system so that you have clean pipes with no bacteria growth in pipes, and your comfort levels will be vastly improved, and you will have a very comfortable house. This is where we're going with dwelling space in the next couple of years. This is where people are going to want to be. So this is just a broad overview of what opportunities and what technology there is out there for plumbers. I would seriously suggest to the plumber you use the internet to your advantage and subscribe to a couple of those sort of YouTube channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, those sort of channels. Look what products are out there, what inspires you, what you think is a worthwhile thing to do in your field, and become that specialist. And then also invest in yourself. I haven't even touched on the new tooling that's available now. And if you can buy some of the tooling that's available now, it's the smartest investment you'll ever make. And if you specialize in the future of plumbing, it's all about making you a wealthier, healthier, and happier plumber, and you can charge a higher fee. Just like with medicine, your GP charges far less than the heart surgeon charges, because a GP is, whilst he's a very intelligent and qualified person, he is not the specialist. And the same with the plumber. We'd all like to believe we're good plumbers, but the guys who are going to really make the money are the guys who specialize in a certain niche within the plumbing industry. And again, it's time for us plumbers to create a value chain within the industry, so that once you accept you're not a specialist in everything, you can pass on the work to the specialist, and he in turn will pass on work to you where you specialize, and you can create a huge value chain, and you can create a niche in this industry to make a serious amount of money if you can get it right. Just the final thing, as we mentioned a couple of times, as some of these ideas are very new and there are often no existing standards within the building code, but with justification and good reason for the usage, and with a little bit of discussion with your local authority or engineer for rational designs, you can certainly have them installed. And I know that PIRB and Institute of Plumbing are open to new ideas, so please chat to the guys there, chat to any of them, and they will guide you in the right direction on how we go about installing some of these products that aren't yet approved in this country. Or you can email me, Malcolm@Harscan, I'm also available and I can put you on to the relevant people. Some of the technology that is available, I'll be able to put you in touch with some of the specialists who already are IOPSA members, who can help you and chat to them about using their products or using their skills. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody.